Midget here. I'm going to be doing a video on a friend's gearbox. So this is the famous ECHO1 CQBR that's always on my channel. Stag arms metal lower, and then this upper. It's featured on my channel a lot. My friend's got a pretty good setup. Now his barrel only goes to like right here, so this is for looks. He also has an amplifier that's about the same length as this, and it's not actually that long. It's about as long as just the barrel without the flash hider. That's about as long as it is. So that makes the gun louder, but I really think he should get a really cool big flash hider and put it on here and do away with this, because I don't think this looks very good. The amplifier looks pretty cool, but it's loud. So if he wants to be quiet, I think he should get a bigger flash hider, like an AAC quick detach silencer type. I got one of those, and it's pretty long. It'll cover this barrel up and look really cool. So I think that's what he should do, but I'll mention that to him because he can get one for $15 shipped from Airsoft Peak. So I'll mention that to him if he wants to get one. And also, I would probably recommend him to get super tight. Recommend to get a charging handle spring because it's messed up. So I may have another one laying around here, and I'll look for one when I find time. Well, here we go. Is that one? I think that's one. I don't know if I want to give it to him though. Maybe I'll look in here and see if I can find two. If there's two, he can have it. But these seem to break all of the time. So maybe I'll give it to him. Maybe I won't. I'll just put that back in there for now. So this gearbox, I'm just going to go over the internals in it. I've put some upgrades, more upgrades into it. It's a nice gearbox. There's a few things that I would recommend for him to upgrade more, and I'll mention that to him. But right now, I mean, it'll run like this, but to be super solid, I don't want to have to open this gearbox up anymore, so I would like him to get more upgrades so that it doesn't need upgraded further, because I do all my tech work for him for free. So first of all, the motor. It is the original ECHO1 motor. It's got ferrous magnets. The magnets aren't that strong. They're not that weak, though. That sticks to it. So not too bad. And it's pretty good on speed. Not really trigger response. I would compare it to his ECI balance. Except you won't get as good a trigger response on semi-auto as the CCI balance, and you won't get as good power efficiency because it is ferrous magnets. Because with neomagnets, you tend to get better battery capacity, or not really capacity, but efficiency, because doesn't seem to draw as many amps to get the same power, because it's more powerful, it's got more torque to it. But the rate of fire is about the same, and it's pretty fast. So these are pretty dang good motors. If you have one, I would recommend keeping it. Now, if you're doing a torque build for trigger response, it's really not the best. Even with a weak spring, I would go with something like a ZCI high torque or something, or a JG Blue or the GE Blues. Okay, so first of all, I got that. But the gun, or the gearbox itself, it's a G&G shell. It is pretty dang strong. A lot of people hate on G&G gearbox shells. This is radiused out of the box. It's got some thick points there. This thing has been through about 15,000 cycles with just this gearbox shell with the same setup that's in here, the same piston. And this is a heavy piston, and it's holding up just fine. So I have a feeling it's going to hold up. If it does end up breaking, I'll probably just tell him to invest in a low neck shell for 45-ish 50, and put it on here. It's wired to Dean's to his buffer tube, but he doesn't have he uses 7.4 bricks, so he zip ties it to his stock. So let's go ahead and open it up. It's got the GR16 selector plate on the side. I think these G&G ones are proprietary, I think. But when I got the shell, it just had that on there, so I just used it. It's using like probably 16 gauge or something wiring. It was rewired by an airsoft store about 1.5 years ago to these wires, because back then I I should have done the work on for him. I solder all sorts of stuff now, so. But it was about a year and a half ago, and I didn't know how to do that. I didn't have a solder gun then. I got one pretty soon after, though. For now on, I do all this tech work for free, so. So, open this thing up. Missing a screw? Nope. It's an 8mm gearbox shell as well. Okay. So, first thing, 8mm. I have Dream Army bushings. Dream Army. I think I still have the package, but I thought they're probably OEM SHS. Like these rocket stuff. It's pretty much OEM SHS. No. They came in a bat. No, yeah. I think I have it. I thought I saw it. I have one of those things in there. Oh, here we go. Wait. Here we go. I thought I just saw it. I'm fishing for something that probably doesn't even matter. Man, I thought I saw it. It doesn't even matter, kids. Dream Army. It's probably OEM, SHS. I think I'm seeing things because I don't think it's in here. Anyways, it said Dream Army, 8mm. Got them from Brill. So, some just China, and they're good for the gear set that this is using. It's not DSG or anything, so they'll hold up. And let's go to the cylinder assembly. So here we have an ECHO1 spring. I think this is about an M110. It was cut from a piston, so we've just used it. I think it's an M110. I think this is an Aries tappet. I think it's an Aries nozzle. It may be the ECHO1 nozzle. Aries aluminum cylinder head. It is aluminum. It looks brass, but it's aluminum. It's brass color. It's like gold. I think it's a double O-ring, but it's super tight in there, so I'm not pulling that out. I think the cylinder is ECHO1. And then we have a ZCI metal rack piston. So this is an aluminum piston with a steel rack, AOE corrected. I don't know how... Oh, there's a pretty thick sorbo pad in there. And a super shooter piston head, plastic. Compression is pretty good. The feet per second is roughly, it's about 350 to 360. When I pulled this apart yesterday, the compression was absolute garbage. It literally had zero compression, it felt like. And I tried it with and without the nozzle, and I tried it a few times, and it just didn't do it. Then I wiped off the O-ring. I literally wiped off the O-ring and then just pulled on it. Just like this. Wiped it off and then pulled on it like that, and then reinstalled it, and the compression was perfect. And when I just took it apart, excuse me, this thing has been sitting in here for about 24 hours with the piston in here, so the piston O-ring has been kind of squeezed, and it still had pretty good compression. So it was carrying 350 with like really crappy compression. So I'm pretty sure, and it's short stroke by one tooth. For the sake of, I had an issue with this piston. Basically, it was having a really nasty grinding sound when I fired it, and I thought it was because this piston had more teeth to it, but after taking it apart yesterday, there was no teeth difference. So I don't know what it was. It just was grinding, so I took a tooth off. So, moral of the story, it is about 350 to 360 FPS with this current setup. And I think it has a 6.01 barrel, and that explains the FPS with the weak spring. And then we have G&P trigger contacts. Red G&P trigger contacts, not SHS. They're G&P. SHS makes red trigger contacts as well. There's no MOSFET in here, but it is running. He runs a 7.4 25 to 35C 2000. It's a brick. It is a very nice battery, and it runs great. About 22, 23 rounds a second with that battery. He also, an SHS 12-to-1 gear set. And this has been in here for about probably about 15,000 cycles. I think about 25,000 cycles. Because he used a plastic piston with this gear set for a good bit. Don't do that, kids. Upgrade your piston. That's not the piston. Is this the piston? This is the piston. This is an Aries piston, an AOE corrected piston, but a lot of the teeth are damaged beyond, and it still ran like this. And he ran this for probably about 50,000 rounds with the 12-to-1 gear set, getting 23-ish rounds a second with the 12-to-1s. Maybe not that. I don't know. This gear set's been in here for longer than I think. I don't remember, but that piston was in there a long time, and I think it was in there when the 18-to-1 gear set was in there too. But when the rate of fire bumped up, I think that's when that damage happened. But use a metal rack piston when you're using 13-to-1s or 12-to-1s, unless you're using a 7.4 and you're getting under 25 RPS. But still, I would upgrade to a metal rack. So basically, it's shimmed pretty nicely. I gotta check shimming again, because when it's together like that, it seems fine. I'll have to check shimming again, but I put it together, and it sounded better than it's ever sounded when I shot it yesterday. I shot it yesterday night, and it sounded really, really good. And I think it was because the compression is fixed. Because when there was horrible compression, that piston had no resistance at all. It's that fuzzy thing. It had no resistance at all. It literally just was going in and out, and just slamming the metal cylinder head, making a lot of noise, and no resistance at all in there. And I think that's why it was just loud. It seems to be a lot quieter. When I shot a whole mag through it yesterday night, it sounded really good, and it sounded like not the rate of fire, but the FPS picked up. Because, like I said, it was getting 350 when the compression was horrible. So I think with this current compression, it's probably going to get high 360s, mid 360s. So I'm just going to cap and say it's about 360s to 350s, because with horrible compression, it was right at about 350, high 340s, low 350s, but with the compression fixed, it's probably mid 360s. And obviously the compression could crap out again and become crap and get 350s again, but with 0.2s, with the Pro 1 hop-up, low next bucking, that 6.01, it launches the BBs out there really far. I have it sight in for about 170 feet, which is pretty dang good for a CQB gun, but I think I turned down the hop-up when we went and played CQB, though, so that it would not shoot high. So it's probably sight in for about 100 now. So it's probably not over-hopping now, but I'll turn the dial and I can turn it back up and get it to about that 170-ish feet with 0.2s, and it shoots straight too. The BBs, the wind doesn't take it because the bucking is really nice and the barrel is tight. But with 365 FPS, with that BB traveling 360s-ish, since it's higher, that BB is going to be traveling faster and get to the target faster, which is overall better. So if you have any questions, comment below. I also just installed the sector chip because the feeding was crap. If you saw my video on this gun when I was doing a shooting test, it wasn't feeding very well at all with GMP midcaps, which is kind of weird because GMP midcaps feed really well. And then I dumped a mag through it last night, and it fed every single round on full auto. So looks like feeding's good now. Feet per second's good. The only thing that I could recommend is a MOSFET for this gun, and a ZCI high torque and an 11.1. If he could use a 7.4. With a MOSFET, the resistance would be less, so you get better trigger response and better rate of fire out of it, right, just by putting a MOSFET in there without even upping the rate of voltage. And then a high torque motor would lower the rate of fire, but since there's a MOSFET, it will up it, so it would probably be